welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Show for another week. Back after our Queen's birthday break to entertain you once again here on a Wednesday afternoon on the MCDFNL website. Sean Kelly's my name. Joining me as always, my co-host Sam Gowers. Sam, great to be back.
Great to be back after a big week off, Sean. I missed sitting next to you.
Yes, I must admit, I don't blame you. I am pretty good to sit next to, but good to be back with you once again on the Footy Show and talking about everything MCDFNL, starting with our major talking points from the last probably fortnight. It's fair to say, obviously not much happened on the weekend, but it would be remiss of us if we didn't go over this first talking point, given that we've given the man a little bit this year. And then on the 7th round, Nathan Wright delivered. The record said 10 goals. The fixture said 10 goals. We don't believe that was actually the case. He might have fiddled the figures a little bit to make it look good, but still, the big man's come back and had his best haul of the year against Maldon in round 7.
Yeah, our favourite son's delivered finally, Shawnee, after about 6 or 7 weeks.
Might have started calling him the prodigal son now because he's returned.
Being just an absolute no-show the first 6 rounds.
Did not do a thing. Delivered
9 or 10 goals, but what's a couple of goals between friends?
Exactly right. The record's saying 10. Yorga sources are saying 9. Corey Taylor's trying to claim one of them.
Yeah, I think Big Nath might have fiddled with the figures like you said, but 9 goals is a good effort.
It was indeed a great effort by Carisbrook on the day as well. A 40-goal win up against Maldon, and I suppose more importantly from a Carisbrook point of view, holding the Dons scoreless for the day.
Yeah, pretty rare to see that at senior football level. It's probably a good indication of just how well Carisbrook's going.
Talking point number 2, leading us into having a look at the ladder. This weekend is the halfway round of the season, so we're probably jumping a week early on it, but it's interesting to have a look and see how things sit leading into some pretty big weeks of footy. There's a gap at the moment. There's the top 3 teams, Navarre, Natty and Royal Park, all undefeated at the moment. Then a 2-game gap to Carisbrook. Then another game to Newstead, and then that's where it starts to get interesting. Obviously, Newstead in 5th and Maryborough Rovers in 12th. There's only 2 games separating those, and only a game separating the Rovers and Denali in 6th. Starting to get very, very tight, and it's games like what we saw in round 7 with the Rovers defeating Denali that are going to have a big say on how this top 8 is structured at the end of the year.
Yeah, this second half of the season is going to be really important for those teams, probably from, I'd say, 6 down to maybe 10, 11 on the ladder. If they can get some good wins in this back end of the season, they might find themselves playing finals football. Also
an interesting one for Carisbrook as well. They probably wouldn't want to be sitting in 4th spot too long and get Navarre early in the finals, although that being said, you get Navarre in the first final. Even if you lose, you don't see them again until the grand final, so it's not a bad way to do it, but they're better than a 4th place side at the moment with what they've shown, especially in the last few weeks. So going along nicely are Carisbrook, but Navarre, Natty and Royal Park. Can't wait to see those sides play against each other in the second half of the season.
Yeah, we know Natty's got a pretty tough run coming up after this weekend. I think they play Navarre, Carisbrook and Royal Park all in succession, so a really big month coming up for the Swans.
Yeah, certainly will be. Let's jump straight into it and have a look at what is taking our fancy this weekend. Round 8 of the Bendigo Bank Maryborough Castlemaine District Football and Netball League, starting with a very interesting game out at Talbot. Talbot taking on Avoca. Talbot were right in it against Lexington just before the break, lost by just 4 points. Avoca shown up by Newstead at the end, and Talbot will start this one as favourites, but you never know what's going to happen in this game.
Yeah, this should be a really interesting clash, Shawnee. I'm going to go with Talbot. I just think they've started that first half of the season a little bit better than the Bulldogs, but wouldn't be surprised if we see an upset.
Yeah, me either. Obviously, I'm going to tip Talbot in this one, but just got a feeling that there's a few things happening down at Avoca at the moment that could galvanise them going into the weekend. But Talbot on form should be too strong. Campbell's Creek taking on Royal Park at the Creekerdome. Big day for Campbell's Creek this weekend as well. They've got their own version of the big freeze that we saw on the Queen's birthday at the MCG. Campbell's Creek hosting their own version. Well done to Steve Adamson and the team for getting something like this up, raising some fantastic money for motor neurone disease and doing a great job. The footy team's going to have a difficult task this weekend, though, taking on a Royal Park side that have been better than good all season long so far.
Yeah, like you said, Shawnee, full credit to Campbell's Creek for organising this. We've seen them do some interesting things in the past few years. They did the Beyond Blue round a couple of years ago. So a club that is very proactive off the field. On the field this weekend, I think they might be in a bit of trouble up against the Tigers.
Trentham taking on Carisbrook at Trentham. The annual game between these two sides are probably the sponsors' day out at Trentham, as well as it tends to be when they take on Carisbrook. And this is a game that Trentham need to win because when you had a look at the ladder before, one of the things that you noticed was their percentage but they're just not winning games. It's not going to be easy against Carisbrook, but they've got to start finding some wins from somewhere.
Yeah, Trentham's percentage is actually higher than the teams, I think from maybe 5 or 6 downwards, but they just can't get the wins on the board, and unfortunately I can't see them doing it this weekend against Carisbrook, particularly after that massive win over Malden the other week.
Yeah, you'd think Carisbrook would be too strong at the moment. Talking to some of the boys from Brook over the weekend as well, and they're very happy with the way things are going. And I suppose with the way that the load's being shared in the forward line, you've got obviously Nathan Wright and Corey Taylor kicking big bags of goals, but LT's not dropping a ball in the forward line. Joel Risk's really coming into the game as well. Geez, they've got some scary options down there.
Yeah, and it gets even scarier this weekend, Sean, because I think Jaden Hind will come back into the Carisbrook team after missing a fair chunk of the season with a hand injury, and he's very dangerous around goals
That
as well.
is real handy for Carisbrook as well. They'll start favourites against Trentham at Trentham this weekend. Lexington taking on the Maryborough Rovers at Lexington Reserve. After the last round, this game becomes extremely important because we know the Rovers knocked over Denali last game. They'll see themselves as a big chance to knock over Lexington here, who just got over the line against Talbot, spotted them a 5-goal lead at half-time where Lexington hadn't kicked the goal and still came back to win the game. So they'll take some confidence out of that, but the Rovers will also go in knowing that they can beat Lexington in this game.
I suppose Maryborough Rovers that last round probably claimed one of the big scalps that they've been probably threatening to do all season. They could do another one this weekend, but I'm going to go with the Tigers.
It's just a more case of better the devil you know with this one, isn't it? It's on the precipice of you think that the Rovers can do this, but kind of until you see it happen, you're not going to kind of believe it. And it's the same with Lexington as well. They're there at the moment, and they're just on that kind of that tipping point of thinking, oh, they're not going to win games like this. But then they go out and they beat Talbot. They come from a long way down to do it, and you think, oh, we can't jump off them just yet.
Yeah, it could be a really season-defining game, I guess, for either side.
Could be indeed. Malden taking on Natty Bialaba at the Bill Wood Full Rec Reserve in Malden. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a little bit of one-way traffic here.
Yeah, sadly for Malden, I think this could be a bit of a walkover for the Swans. Pretty disappointing against Carisbrook the round before the bye, whereas Natty is in very good form indeed.
That being said, the game's at Malden, so you'll think that the Dons will bring a bit more spirit at home as well, and they'll obviously want to atone for that last round. So I reckon early on especially, they'll come out and throw the kitchen sink at Natty, but you just imagine that Natty would have too much in the armoury, they'd just take those barbs, run with them, and then run away with the game in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Malden do play their home ground very well indeed, probably the best of any home side in the comp, but you just can't see them getting over the unbeaten Swans.
Newstead taking on Navarre at the Newstead Rec Reserve. Pretty long trip for the boys from Navarre. This would be number 49 in a row if they can get it, and just on the precipice of raising the bat for the half century. And Newstead aren't going to be a pushover. We know the last team that lost, that Navarre lost to, was Newstead. They'd be hoping that lightning can strike twice, even if it is 3.5 years apart.
Yeah, they would be, but unfortunately for the Kangaroos, I just can't see them doing it. Navarre's probably gone to another level this season. I reckon no one's really got anywhere near them, so I'm going to go with the Grasshoppers.
But do you look at, I suppose, a week off, will that help or hinder Navarre? Will that take away from their momentum, or will that just give them a chance to just get fresh, regroup and go again?
Yeah, sadly for Newstead, I think it just gives them that chance to get fresh, give blokes that maybe need a rest a week off and regroup for this round.
And then on Sunday, very interesting game happening at Deledio Reserve in Denali. Denali taking on Harcourt, two of the incumbents inside the top 8 at the moment in spots 6 and 7. This will be a very, very interesting game between two teams that have promised a bit but haven't really over-delivered a lot. Obviously, Denali, we know, have improved. Harcourt treading water a bit from last year, but this is a game that both of them really need to grab.
Yeah, both have probably had up and down seasons, I guess you could say. They've had really good highs, but sort of low lows. Denali in particular would probably be pretty disappointed with that loss to Maryborough Rovers. They'll come out firing, but I'm going to go with Harcourt in a close one.
Yeah, it will be a very interesting game. I'm going against you. I'm just thinking Denali at home. I reckon they'll take something away from that loss against the Rovers and just say, right, we don't want to lose another close game like that one again and get embarrassed, especially at home. I think Denali will get the job done. That's all the time we've got this week for the MCDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to Bendigo Bank Maryborough, our fantastic naming rights partners and partners of the Footy Show as well. If you need any money lending issues, if you need to open a new account, you need a loan, you just need to chat to them about putting some money away and earning some interest on it, go and have a chat to Kim at the Bendigo Bank in Maryborough. She will look after all of your needs and then more. Thanks for joining us, Sammy.
Thanks, mate. Glad to be back.
I'll go and give the vocal cords a rest. They're just wavering at the moment. You could probably hear that as I was going on. Just coming out the end of the cold that everybody's got at the moment. So just might need to just simmer it down a little bit for a week, which those who know me know that it's going to be nigh on impossible to do that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, if you lost your voice maybe for a little while, but I can't see it happening.
Could be make for a very interesting MCDFNL footy show if that happened. They had to do some sort of overdub, so it'd be very interesting indeed. Thank you for joining us, though. We'll see you again next Wednesday here on the MCDFNL website with more from the MCDFNL Footy Show.